and welcome! In this video, we will review ThinkPad X1 Carbon, which is currently at its 9th generation, and I will explain why I believe that, in my opinion, this is the best Windows laptop for many users. Gen 9 introduces some major improvements over Gen 8, including 16:10 aspect ratio, front-facing speakers, Thunderbolt 4, and for the first time, up to 32 gigs of RAM and 2 TB storage option. X1 Carbon has been around for a while now, and every new generation introduces some great improvements. Carbon has historically been one of the best business laptops you can get. We have also reviewed smaller brother of Carbon, X1 Nano. If you want to check out that review, you can find the link in the description down below. Now let's look at the design and what has changed since Gen 8. At the first glance, it is just another boring ThinkPad, right? It does easily blend in among other laptops of same ultra-thin category, nothing special or eye-catching. But if we pick it up and start examining closely, we can see some nice details and the fact that Lenovo really did pay attention to the detail with which this laptop was designed on mind. At the bottom, we can see print that says Carbon plus Magnesium chassis. Fact is, bottom is made of aluminium, palm rest area is made of magnesium, and lid cover is made of carbon fiber. All this is hidden from us thanks to slim layer of black rubberized coating, which feels very nice to the touch and helps connect all these different materials used into one unified, sturdy and well-built chassis. The only issue is that it attracts fingerprints like a magnet. New one-bar hinge design allows for 180 degrees opening. It feels light but not too light. What I mean is that it does not feel hollow or cheap, but it feels very portable. In fact, it only weighs 2.49 pounds, which is only 10 grams more than Gen 8. Now, you might think, how is it a good thing that it weighs more than the last gen? Well, thing is that for the first time ever, X1 Carbon comes with 16:10 aspect ratio, which adds some extra vertical real estate to the screen to work with. This year, we can see this trend being adopted across the entire industry. You can get this laptop with 14-inch IPS panel with resolution up to 3480 by 2400. All these pixels with 500 nits of brightness. Unfortunately, it is a glossy panel, and if you want anti-glare coating, you will need to sacrifice the resolution. As with many Windows laptops nowadays, X1 Carbon is also available with a touchscreen. But once again, this is limited to FHD Plus panels only. Just look at this panel. It is bright and vibrant. We just wish it would reflect less light. You can see on this example here that on the direct sunlight it is pretty much unusable. It does have 100% DCI P3 coverage and supports HDR 400 standard and Dolby Vision. It will also get easy on your eyes with the TUV certification for reduced blue light emissions. So overall, decent panel. Hopefully, for the Gen 10, Lenovo will introduce OLED option and perhaps 90 or even 120 Hz options. Specs, which I just mentioned, are in our test unit here. So we have top-of-the-range config, and we have to say that at the first we were worried about cooling performance and battery life. I mean, all this power in 14.9mm thin chassis, but here's the thing, Lenovo thought of this and added an extra fan this year, which helps with the cooling. But as a result, it also adds some unwanted noise when under load. Well, actually, too much fan noise for my taste. There is one thing we simply cannot ignore: bezels. Yes, they are slimmer than Gen 8, but still, for 2021, these bezels are huge, and we know that Lenovo can already make laptops with some super thin bezels. So yeah, Lenovo, please give us a thinner bezels and high refresh rate panel next year. Thanks. We also have a brand new hinge, as I mentioned before. You can see this here is just a single long bar that makes entire laptop more rugged. One of the most important attributes of every ThinkPad laptop is the keyboard. Despite key travel distance being the same as on Gen 8, that's 1.5 millimeters, typing somehow feels a bit tighter and shallower. You can actually see that keys are shorter when compared to last year's Carbon. This results in slightly worse experience while typing. Other than that, the keyboard feels great. It is snappy with a great tactile feedback. It has a typical ThinkPad layout with FN and Control keys being reversed, but you can change it back to classic layout in the Lenovo Vantage software. Absolutely no complaints here. We were, however, surprised that there is no auto backlight option, which turns on and adjusts keyboard's backlight based on current lighting conditions. As for the trackpad, it's barely noticeable, but it is wider by 10% compared to last year. We think that it is a bit too small for gestures and scrolling, but Lenovo is sticking with 3 signature discrete clickers. Other than that, touchpad still has a smooth, high-quality glass surface. Speaking of signature stuff, Red's TrackPoint is back, and it seems like it's going to stay for a while. Fingerprint reader is now integrated within power button, which is a considerable improvement over the last year, where we had fingerprint reader next to trackpad and power button was located at the side next to the ports. This year, Lenovo moved front-facing speakers to the sides. It is still a 4-speaker setup. 2 tiny 0.8 watt are on the top and 2 large 2 watt are at the bottom. They sound better than Gen 8, but they're not great. There's a clear lack of bass, however, on louder volumes, speakers still sound clear, there is no distortion. Now on a webcam. We have 720p webcam with physical privacy shutter, which we are not used to from other Lenovo laptops. There is an optional AR blaster for Windows Hello and Presence detection. I think it is time for all manufacturers to address the fact that many people now work from home and should switch to at least 1080p webcams as standard. Ports on this Ultra Slim are actually really good. On the left, we have 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, 1 USB-A 3.2 and HDMI 2.0. On the right, 3.5mm audio jack, and yes, another USB-A 3.2. On this model, we can also see optional SIM card tray. Carbon G9 supports both 4G and 5G connections. There is also a Kensington lock. The only downside of this port layout is that there is no Thunderbolt 4 on the right. So if you want to run your power cable that way, you are out of luck. Oh, and also remember the exhaust on the right side that used to blast hot air on your hand? That's now gone. So now let's look at some benchmarks to see how does X1 Carbon Gen 9 compares to X1 Nano and other laptops from the same category. In Cinebench R23, we can see limitation to the cooling design, where X1 Yoga scored better than X1 Carbon in both multi-core and single-core, and we can also see limitations which X1 Nano super thin design brings to the table. In the Geekbench, X1 Carbon and X1 Yoga are neck and neck in both single-core and multi-core. In OpenCL, Carbon pulls ahead in UMA category. But in Blender, once again, Yoga wins over Carbon. And of course, MX450 and Yoga Slim 7 Pro destroys integrated graphics. We always run PC Mark 10 benchmark just for a good measure. Overall, we can see a similar story here with other benchmarks. Yoga is slightly ahead, but Carbon is not doing too bad. In 3D Mark results, we were a bit confused since first try Carbon really falls behind, but it did well in TimeSpy. Under the load, we have measured 41 decibels of fan noise. Nothing surprising here. Lenovo claims 16.5 hours of battery life. X1 Carbon has 57 watt-hour battery, which is larger than one used in G8 and uses 65 watt USB-C charger. Based on our testing, we got 6 hours and 28 minutes of an online video playback with a half brightness. ThinkPad X1 Gen 9 introduces biggest improvements since its first generation back in 2012. We now have 16 by 10 14-inch display, wider trackpad, front-facing speakers on sides, Thunderbolt 4, 32 gigs of RAM, new power button with integrated fingerprint reader, and of course Tiger Lake CPU from Intel. But we have also slightly worse keyboard. We would like to see matte finish on UHD Plus panels, and we also don't like the fact that fans are quite audible, especially during heavier workloads. For those who are wondering, Carbon Gen 9 can run Windows 11, but also Linux and Fedora. In regards of what user can upgrade, SSD is the only replaceable part in this laptop. I mean, it's still better than what you can do with most ultra slims out there. Also, AMD is once again missing from the offering. But overall, we think Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 9 is a solid option for those on the market for a premium and portable business laptop. Well, there you have it. This was our take on Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 9. We cannot wait to see what will Lenovo introduce next year. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, and if you want to see more content like this one, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.